Second album, this is the first album I bought, in the 74, 5. It made me immediately little Feet fan. It's a great album. I've been listening since then. So this is a big change for Little Feet. This is the first album you joined, member changes. So they, so the sound changed too. So we have to say, we may say this is more toward to the kind of New Orleans funk R&B and more polyrhythmic sound. And so first I'd like to know Sam and Kenny joined the band. And they're from the New Orleans area, so they're from the South. So you guys already have a new direction to you trying to, do more New Orleans or Southern style funky R&B sound, and you look for the someone fit in, or having Kenny and Sam inspire more to take the road to the direction.
I think it was musically where we were. I don't know if we were heading there or not, and I don't know that Kenny and Sam really had a lot to do with it. They just, I didn't know I know they were born there or something, but...
Kenny was born in New Orleans, and Sam was born up in Colfax, which is north of by Monroe, Louisiana. But they were both raised in Los Angeles.
Okay.
But they obviously came from an R&B, background, if you will. Sam more jazz than R&B, Kenny more R&B. But it was really kind of by chance that Kenny wound up coming in as the bass player. But that was the crux. That's what changed the whole thing, was when Roy decided that he was going to jump ship and go play with Cafiero. And that's when I got the call that Rick Harper, actually Lowell called and said, "You can be in the band if you can learn the intro to Cold, Cold, Cold." So I called up Rick Harper, who was the road manager, who also hooked Billy and Kenny up with through SIR, I guess.
Right, that's right.
Dolph and those guys. Because Kenny's older brother worked at SIR, and Sam and Kenny were just leaving Delaney and Bonnie. It was just sort of like somebody just kind of threw up a deck of cards and they all just sort of landed on top of each other.
Yeah, there was a big blues resurgence at the end of the '60s.
Yeah.
And although we didn't take up with these cats, or at least Kenny and Sam, until '72. Clifton Chenier was playing in LA at what was that place?
It was like a Masonic Hall or something.
Yeah.
San Martin, down by LACC. That's someone down there.
Yeah, and there was the Asheville. Yeah, there was Professor Longhair. Starting to hear about him. When you think about it too. Gosh, there was a song called Big Boy Pete by the Olympics when I was in 5th grade. That's that kind of, I mean, I didn't know that was New Orleans music at the time. Also, you're listening to Fats Domino growing up. So that, as a culture, listening to rock and roll and R&B, it did include those elements of New Orleans music. So we were pretty well tapped into it just as players, and it was some stuff we liked, which is why we kind of grasped it right away.
I see. Did Lowell already recorded with RA 200 meters for the Robert Palm album before this album?
No. Actually, it was afterwards.
After.
Before we went in and did Feedstone Family Now.
Okay. So is there any particular period you guys listen to the more, Meters, Dr. John or Alan Tucson album to trying to learn or something?
Well, you learn from these folks anyway, whether you want to or not. I mean, it's like listening to whatever you hear. I mean, Paul was well versed in a lot more blues than I was, but You should probably tell them what you were listening to back then.
I was listening to, Muddy Waters and Mississippi John Hurt and Fred McDowell. And, I'd actually met Dr. John when he first put out Gree. And so his music was really the first introduction I had to that New Orleans persona. But like Billy was saying, we grew up listening to this stuff. I mean, even Little Richard, who came out of Macon, Georgia, had that same sort of sensibility to it. It all kind of migrated from the blues to rock and roll, and kind of traveled up through the Delta to Chicago and so forth. And so I think that's just really where the whole funk thing came from.
So, you joined on this album, but you have been friends since before.
I was friends with Lowell.
Lowell and the band.
I wasn't really friends. What it was he was in school with my older brothers, and so I was like the.
You had known him.
Yeah, I had known him. And when I joined the band, I kind of felt like he was, the older brother who would always get me in the headlock and give me noogies, kind of thing. He taught me a lot about songwriting and so forth, to get away from just playing blues and so forth.
What do you think you brought to the band?
And it's funny, when they started the band, Lowell came to my house up in Lower Canyon where I was living. It wasn't my house, but it was a flop house of musicians. We had a band called the Lead Enema. And Lowell gave me a bass and said, "Be at this address tomorrow. I want you to audition for my new band." I said, "Lowell, this is a bass and I play guitar." And he went, "Well, it's 2 less strings." But I failed miserably at the audition as a bass player. But what I did do was I kind of befriended Bill and Richie and said, "Hey, every now and then we have these jams downtown Los Angeles up in this loft. Come on down." It's cool. And just kind of corrupted them from the inside out. and I knew I had known the road manager, Rick Harper, since grammar school, elementary school, and so that's kind of the way I got into the band, and I thought it was probably the luckiest day of my life because I loved the band. I loved them as a quartet. I saw them numerous times in concert, and I always thought that I could add something to Lowell's playing because I could free him up. I could play the rhythm parts, and he could just really sing and play more lead and so forth. It worked out well.
So when you guys started making this album, did you have any kind of concept? First 2 albums were very well received critically, but you are still sort of cult band then, and
right.
you got a big hope for the expectation to the next album, right?
There was the energy and I don't know, it's like sort of like what's going on now with bringing Gabe in. Things became a lot less cerebral on certain levels, a little more direct with Kenny and Sam. I think too that what Paul was bringing to the table from my point of view, not only to free Lowell up, which he certainly did, and that was part of the exercise, but he also brought a more rock and roll, a more hard-edged blues sensibility to this band, which is what allowed us to do Dixie Chicken in particular. I mean, I had the keyboard stuff obviously covered, but it was less folksy, less. I mean, there's certain times I think on Sailing Shoes there was it Easy to Slip was an attempt to write a hit song. We were doing something a little different. It was just it felt more loose and fun to me, and I think to everybody. But yeah, I think and why it did was because we had more people playing. The direction was a little different. and certainly a lot more solid in the camp of rock and roll and R&B.
So this is the first album Lord George produced, not people from outside.
Right.
So this is his first experience as a producer.
I don't know, did he produce anything else? He might have done some other things, but I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah.
But he may have, been involved in some production of other things.
Well, how about his job as a
But
producer?
it was just definitely in his first home movie.
It was good. I mean, I think we were in a pretty good place back then. You know, is Kiss It Off on that record?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my first experience with synthesizers, if I can say it. And so we maintained an eclecticism that we all would always have.
Yeah,
But this other element that the guys, that Paul and Kenny and Sam, but particularly Paul, as I said, brought into the situation, made it a really comfortable place to work from. And I think that's really where it came out of folk and into more of a rock and roll blues thing, was really with the addition of this guy here. I mean,
Well, we also co-wrote Walking All